Hello, Alicia Yusuf here. I'm excited to be back. Saturn is about to move into Aries tomorrow. So I am coming out of my Saturn in the 12th house cave. And I'm excited to be here with Joelle Rabba, an astrologer from Beirut in Lebanon. And we've been chatting a lot about the astrology of 2026. And we've both got a lot of planets in Aries. And so who better to listen to than to hear more about what Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries has for in store for us for the next few months. So, yeah, welcome, Joelle. Lovely to see you.
Hello, Alicia. Thank you. Thank you for allowing this to happen. And yeah, it's been quite a lot. We had a trailer of Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. So it's good to, engage with these kind of conversations.
100%. And, Joelle's right. We had Neptune in Aries from March through until November last year, I think. And then
Mm,
Saturn in Aries from May through until September. And then we had a reprieve as they both went back into the late degrees of Pisces. But now we're coming out of that deep, eternal ocean that Pisces is, that imaginative, magical place. And it's
yeah.
down now into the fire sign. And at the same time as these two are entering, we also have this eclipse energy building because we have our first
Yeah.
eclipse in a while happening next week on the 17th, and then another one on the 3rd of March. So, yeah, and this energy is going to bleed on into April. So, here we are talking all about Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. And look, let's talk about because Neptune's been in Aries for what, 2.5 weeks now. So we're already seeing the themes of that coming back into play again as well. What are
Yeah.
you picking up from this, Joelle?
Well, I find it interesting that, at least on a mundane level, right? Like in our lives, it's
Mm,
it's hard to pinpoint when it's like outer planets and they're at the beginning. But in mundane life around us, we look at, all this force and, people who are in power and in force somehow, who enforce themselves on others in some shape or form that it's coming to the surface. And I feel like, I told you before, I feel like it's worse than Pluto and Aquarius in some shape or form in regards to this.
yeah, 100%. Aries, if we think about it, it's a singular point. Yes, it's the horns of the ram, but it's also the seed bursting through the surface and things coming from a
Yeah.
singular point. And this is amazing for the individual and, individual pushing forward, but it's also
Right.
totalitarianism and autocracy too. And I think this is where, especially with Neptune and Aries, we're going to see some very interesting energy come through, especially once Saturn has pulled far enough away from Neptune. So we're into this kind of realm of, well, what are the possibilities? What are the dreams we can have? And how we move from the very watery vibes of Neptune and Pisces,
Yeah, good point. Good
yeah,
point. I mean,
into this, it can inspire us and uplift us. And, I'm thinking the words compassion in action is very much, or the courage
mm,
to act on our ideals is very much this possible energy here for you, for us all. What are
yeah.
you thinking?
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, we've been for 14 years into this realm of Pisces that Neptune was highlighting a lot. I mean, look, it was really good for, compassion, all this spirituality, the new age thing coming to
Astrology.
the surface,
Yeah.
astrology, right? Now I feel like it's time for reckoning. It's like, are you embodying this, or it's just like woo woo and nice and, fluffy and delusional?
Hmm.
And I think this is where Neptune is really like the strength of Neptune is to dissolve boundaries and to dissolve um, the, the the barriers to the point where it shows you the naked truth. And I'm just thinking of Aries as like this child who's coming innocently to the world. And I know everybody, associates it with fights and stuff, and it is, of course, it's Mars. It's the energy of Mars. But at the same time, there is this innocence of what if I just go and do it instead of thinking about it, being compassionate and allowing and understanding everyone before doing it.
Yeah.
Like, we've been
Anyone
into
who's
this energy for a long time.
Yeah, I love it. And anyone who's been around toddlers will know there's not a lot of think before doing. It is that okay, I'll take the risk. I'll try this new thing. And I think that there is this possibility that dreams just don't float. They do inspire us into these fast, imaginative leaps into action. Okay, where am I going to
Mm,
go with this? An example from my life is our beautiful town is undergoing, unfortunately, a homelessness crisis. And we had a
mm.
local town meeting recently, and I went into this meeting expecting a fight because a lot of people are being vigilantes and saying we need to just kick them out. And instead, I met this very compassionate group, and it was about 100 people who were there willing to
Oh,
empathize, willing
wow.
to hold things, willing to think, well, we need to do something. And we have to stop waiting for government because government's not really stepping up to it. But in the doing something, we need to do it with empathy and with compassion and with thoughtfulness and even innovation, that kind of pioneering energy that Aries can have as well. So each of us has this possibility in the house that Aries is in. But I did love that segue you took us into of the reality check, because we've also got Saturn now entering this area of our chart
Yes.
too, don't we? Bringing those reality checks and, the Netflix and chill, or the social media of Neptune in Pisces, where the truth is out there and who knows what it really is going to have the checks, the receipts are coming.
Well, I mean, I know that everybody is a little bit on the panic, level in regards to all of what's happening. I know from my clients, I know from, people around me, everybody's like, how? Like, are we going to survive this? I'm like, well, we have a pretty record of surviving until now, right? So eclipses exist, changes exist in the world. It's only how we put the narrative together. And I think the good thing about Mars energy is that it's so much into action
Yeah.
that it obliges us to put the narrative together so we can move forward.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's how I'm seeing it. Like, I know that Saturn and Aries is not good, and you can talk about this. Like, it's not good. It's just like weaker maybe than a Saturn in its full domicile or exaltation.
Mm.
But yeah, how do you see this?
Well, the reality is Saturn in Aries is under-resourced. That is what,
Mm.
it's a slow-moving, cautious planet that's about discipline and focus and long term. And yet it's entering a territory that's impulsive, it's rash, it's excitable. I always think about it like Tigger in Winnie the Pooh, you know, and it's bouncing all over the place. And it's like the match strike. It's meant to start and initiate.
So it's
It's
not
not
good
meant
for
to keep
this.
things going. No. So for Saturn, the analogy I'm using is brakes on a runaway train and the heat and the friction that are coming up. Or even, granddad trying to teach his teenage, hot headed grandson how to
Mm.
drive in a fast car. There's like, okay, put your seatbelt on, make sure you know where the brake is. But, all the grandson wants to do is go fast. And granddad's like, no, we go fast, we go slow. We take our time, we learn the basics first, and then we go as fast as we can. But we're going to have to actively and consciously do this. So anything that is Saturnian in our life, edges, borders, is going to be, or constraints, a discipline, long term, is going to be harder to access, harder to put in place, whatever
Mm.
that means. But for me, as an Aries rising, I'm seeing this as actually something that's bringing me, instead of hitting the world with my head, as I tend to do, and I know my Aries rising listeners will relate to this, suddenly I'm more straight. I'm like, okay, this is grounding for me. And this is what the opportunity is if we don't meet it with fear.
Yes, I was going to add, this is amazing what you said, because what you said brought me to, okay, so where is Saturn happy? He's
Mm,
happy in his own domicile, of course, of, Capricorn and Aquarius. But as well, it's exalted in Libra, which is the opposite sign for Aries. And I was just thinking, like, what's the commonality? And the commonality is the cardinal, the modality of this force.
mm, good
So
point. Yeah,
if we look at this narrative that we're gonna live as like as an adjustment
yeah.
period from where, the COVID era, where everything was in Capricorn and like so focused on, oh, the long term. What are we going to do on the long term? Our health on the long term, our lifestyle on the long term. And now we're at this square. We're at literally these 2 years, at least 2 years for all of us, where we're like in the hot immediate action and
Mm,
where we need to change the priority
mm,
of our to-do list.
yeah,
Like,
love it.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's maybe my area, like Aries way of looking at this, because I don't have a lot of Aries, by the way, but I'm ruled by Aries because I'm a Leo rising. Um, But this, I've been thinking a lot about the COVID era because since then we knew as astrologer, we knew that we're stepping into a new era. We knew that the epoch was changing. Everybody's been talking about it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So this year is the year of reckoning. How do you do this new era you're talking about? How do you live it instead of being in the mind or just being in your feelings about it? You just go and do it a Mars way.
Yeah.
Um,
And that boundaried, restricted way that we had to live our lives for those 2, 3 years, and some way more than others. But this is a time to kind of, I think we went in a traditional way. Well, this is what we've always done. So this is what we do. We lock down, we stay in place. The enemy's coming for us. We put the walls up. But Saturn in Aries is actually like, no, I'm going to go fight it. Be disciplined about it. I might be the old grizzled warrior who has a whole lot of experience under my belt, but I'm going to do it in my way. And I'm going to do it in a way that potentially may tear down walls. And especially with Neptune, is going to melt walls too.
yeah, I was thinking of it's not a coincidence that we're having this. Everybody's been talking about the eclipse. I mean, you're more into charts, like of the events. So I'm not gonna talk about the eclipse as an eclipse, but I always look at the narrative. Like, how are we as humans and individuals, but as humans specifically, like as a species, how are we carrying the narrative when we have like so much happening in the span of,
Mm,
this time of the eclipse and, the historical change. Now we're like officially on paper, we're at the beginning of this, you know, new epoch. There will be no more Neptune in Pisces for at least 160 years or
yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And look, I want to, are there any kind of last points about this? Because we will get into the eclipse. Is there anything else you really wanted to say about Saturn in Aries? I mean, the only other
We
kind of
have so much
thing
to cover that
I
I want
know,
to talk, but I'm
yeah,
like, if we want to cover, April until April, we
I
have
know.
so much to talk about.
All right. Well, it will be highlighted with the eclipse. And let me bring this up on the
Yes,
screen because I think it will be such an interesting eclipse. I mean, first off, it is the first one that we have. Are you able to see that? Okay, great.
yes.
Yeah. So it is the first one that we have with in this Leo Aquarius that we're about to go into, where the nodes, they don't move until
It's not
July.
there yet.
No,
Until, yeah, until August.
but this is still part of that. It's the first of that series. So we have a solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius with Mars nearby, and which rules Saturn, because Saturn is now in Aries, very close to Neptune, ruling this eclipse. So there's something about the karmic nature of this, how it's getting us to think about larger picture communities or humanitarian endeavors. And this is a North
Mm.
Node eclipse. What do we desire? What are we going after? What are we hungry for? And interesting, Venus is conjunct this too, conjunct that North Node there too, bringing this kind of, okay, well, we need to have
That's
compassion
that's
and have
why
grace.
in I don't know, I'm not seeing a lot of the Aquarius, other than the fact that it's a new moon, but I'm sensing like there is a blend of energies
Yeah,
because the nodes did not move yet.
no,
So we still have this lingering confusion, or want to call it compassion if you want, that is like leaking from Pisces still into this eclipse,
yeah.
uh, with
Where
this
there is that square to
Venush.
Uranus.
I know, I know, I know, I know.
And
But
that Mars is
Venus, the
conjunct.
ruler of Taurus, like
Yeah,
Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is in a good space. So, like there will be pockets of joy, guys. Like there will be like pockets of joy. That's how I want to imagine it.
yeah. I think it's revolution towards compassion. Do you know what I mean? It's taking that higher picture, but in a softer place. This is maybe a soft strength, and look, we're already seeing this energy out in the world, aren't we?
I
I
love
know for
this.
our US listeners, you're seeing it. Here in Australia, what happened on the streets just recently in Sydney, um, we're seeing this. The masses standing up for a more compassionate, a more equal, a more egalitarian way of being. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about this eclipse. Here
If
in
I
Australia,
might,
it's happening. Sorry, here in Australia, it's happening at 10 p.m. Brisbane time,
oh,
11 p.m. for the rest of the eastern seaboard here. What about you, Joelle? When's it happening in
it's
Beirut?
14. Yeah, it's at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beirut time, which is GMT plus 2. You have like Europe, it will be, I think, 1 p.m. on the
Mm,
17th.
yeah.
If I may add one thing about this kind of soft power you were talking about. This I would like what I'm seeing is that this eclipse is involving Uranus at the end of its journey in Taurus, which created all these problems of stability and resources for all of us since 2018, for the whole world. Everybody has been asking about resources or panicking about resources, or feeling like the stable part of our life, which is Taurian, is completely smashed and shattered. And I feel this eclipse is gonna highlight like the end of this journey, for good or
Mm,
for worse, right? Like I don't think the energies like attack us. I don't believe in this, and that's why I don't use astrology in like to fearmonger. For me, astrology is just showing us the narrative. How do we carry our narrative from 2018 epoch that is finishing, 2011 epoch that is finishing, and we have Pluto that started a new epoch since 2023. So how are we mixing this? What did we learn? I think this will be a big highlight. What did we learn about resources and the sharing of resources?
yeah.
Uh, and how do we have and how do we share? And how is it profiting the fact that Aquarius is interested in the borders, but outside instead of, Capricorn, the borders and inside. I feel like this is where it's nice to explore instead of just jumping into the conclusions of, oh, it's gonna be bad.
Yes, a hundred
Well,
percent.
it could be bad, it could be good. If you're
Yeah,
thinking if it's gonna be bad, you'll not be able to see any pocket of joy.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, that point you're making, we did see in April 2024 some really exciting possibilities for food resources scaling, at a cellular basis and coming from, and I know it feels gross, but kind of algae and microbiome things, and they're growing and happening now. That was the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And so that's only going to continue in this period of time to grow. So that was the gifts of this area. And so those resources are growing, they're just going to look new and different. And perhaps on the eclipse,
Mm,
we'll see something different, but it's for all of us. I love what you're saying. It's for each of us
that's
individually. What
beautiful.
resources you?
That's really beautiful because I mean, that is really Aries. It takes like
Yeah,
whatever was under the surface and just burst out with this, spring energy. Like it wants to bring it to life. And of course, not everything is going to be good if it burst into life, right? Like it's not about the judgment call,
agreed.
more
Yes,
of
yes,
the modality.
yeah.
How are we doing this and keeping ourselves grounded?
Yes. And I think that's a good point that you're making. And this is where, let's jump into the next big topic we want to talk about that happens a few days later, which is on the 21st of February here in Australia. I think it's the 20th for you because
It's
it's
the
very
20th
early.
for us.
It's 2:53 a.m. here. And this is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
Yeah,
Now,
for us here it's 6:53 as well. Like Beirut and I think 5:53 Europe.
yeah,
I'm talking Paris, Amsterdam, and of
yeah, Central
course
Europe. Yeah,
can check it.
yeah. So I think there's a lot about this. And one of the big things I'm talking to clients about is okay, Aries rules your adrenals. Our adrenals are linked to fight, flight, freeze. And they can very much take us into that place where we're stuck in the on of the world isn't safe. I'm not safe. I either have to get into fight mode or I lock myself down like a turtle. And
Protective.
yeah, exactly. And it freezes us in place. It also means that we are much more easily led, we are much more easily used by those in
Yes.
power. And so,
Yes.
one of my big things for the Saturn in Aries, conjunct Neptune in Aries, is I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, or read the book by a guy called Dan Millman. It's such a cool read and it's very much along these lines. But basically, he was a gymnast who met this spiritual mentor and really started to get into, and this was in the 70s, so started to get into meditation and energy movement like Qigong and Tai Chi. And then he had a serious car accident and it dropped the
Mm.
bottom out of his life. And then he realized that he could heal himself, not back to gymnast level, but back to walking around doing things through the discipline of his body and the discipline of his spiritual pursuits, but they're active ones, not passive. And so that's for me, okay, this is what we can do and we can ground in this
Yeah.
period of time. And this will continue on in April. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is very much like, all right, what spiritual disciplines am I bringing into place right now? And what are the ways that I'm bringing, the crystallizing of the ethereal into my world, especially in the Aries part of your chart? Well,
Yeah, and Aries rules the head.
mm,
So
yeah,
anything that has to do with being here
yeah,
um, needs to go down and to be grounded. because otherwise it's going to be like you're leading with your head, yes, perfect, but it's injuries for the body.
Yeah.
And I think as a, Aries rule chart, um, yeah, it's a huge lesson. The lesson of Mars usually comes through either accidents, big, I don't want to call it catastrophe. In my case, it was catastrophes, but like it's like big, huge accidents or, stuff that you are exposed to or, being in,
Yeah.
and you learning that you can pick yourself up and do and take the next step.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we can hone on on Saturn in Aries instead of thinking of its shortages. Like,
Yeah.
how are we going to do like the next two steps that are going to keep us sane, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, instead of just being like the head is amazing because this is the leader, this is how we are going to force things. But I'm kind of, either it's a delusion. We're gonna see. I don't know, but I'm really counting on Neptune in Aries to just soften this the Martian part, to soften it into, and like you said, like spiritual discipline instead of just forcing things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And I think as well, one of the things, because what we've got now with Saturn and Aries for the next 2 years is Saturn looking to Mars. We've got the two, what we call in traditional astrology, the two malefic planets tied together. And the malefic planets look for the edges of existence. Both of them are dry. One is hot and dry Mars, one is cold and dry Saturn. So they're about separation
Mm.
and they're always seeking the edges. And look, we could look at the edges as hard and bad, and we're going into terrible places. Or we could look at the edges as what's possible in the future. Where are we going? What are the new future edges we could take? One of my really dear spiritual teachers said to me about 5 years ago, we need to learn to look beyond the apocalypse. And
Yeah,
for me, that's so
yeah,
much of what Saturn and Neptune can offer us together. Use that
yes,
pioneering spirit of Aries to look forward in a new and exciting way. And there's a wonderful book, I think I was talking to you about it last week, called The Ministry of the Future.
yeah.
And
You
I'm
told me
not going
about
to
it.
talk about it. I'm not going to, but you know, it's got some pretty full on stuff in it, and it looks at really where we are at as a human species and what we're doing to ourselves. It begins to imagine the possibilities that we could take if we let ourselves. And it's amazing the future that it talks about, which is quite near and based on technology that already exists or is in development. Like going from aeroplanes and cargo ships that are on fuel into things drawn by sails, or back to the old airships, but developed with our current technology. Amazing
Mm.
possibilities. And this is just one way of transportation, looking beyond the apocalypse. So we can get stuck in that place of fear and
Yeah.
scarcity, or we can go, well, what's our edge? What's our possible edge? And how can we live to the best of that?
And talking about possibilities as well, we have a Mercury retrograde, right? Like it's in embedded in this whole February, March journey. But what I was mentioning to you, like I'm actually looking forward for this Mercury retrograde because it's keeping a narrative open as well in the background.
Mm,
It starts to trine Jupiter while it's still retrograde. We have Jupiter retrograde now for the last like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Forgot when it started its retrograde.
yeah, yeah. I forget too.
But like Jupiter is at the end of its retrograde right now. We're at the end of it.
Hmm.
And what's happening is that Mercury, before entering its retrograde, like by I think by Yeah, Monday 16 actually. It's before the eclipse. It's this narrative is like undergoing. And Jupiter, we know, I mean, Jupiter in Cancer is exalted because it really highlights home emotions, body, body. And it's gonna like pick up the tone. Like, how are you taking care of your bodies? It's not only the head. Um, and yeah, and we have this narrative between 16 Feb until 3rd of April. Can you imagine?
I
It's a
know, and
long one.
one of my favorite days of this period is this 23rd or 22nd, 23rd of February, when we have Venus, trine Jupiter, and the two of them are
Yeah,
such a protective mechanism. We've got both these life giving planets in their exaltation, supporting themselves, like supporting us. So, in
yeah,
different area of our lives, in these more watery, emotional, intuitive areas of our lives, there will feel like there's support. There will feel like there's uplift. And Mercury going back and forth in this area will definitely kind of bring that more in intuitive, poetic almost voice online in all of us that we need to dial into and hear when that
y-
uncertainty is going. And I mean, Joelle, this is one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you today because yes, I live in a Western country that is pretty privileged, is pretty stable. But the reality for you is not that in Lebanon. You're used
no,
to living with uncertainty. And I think
no, no.
the tips you offer and the way you think about things is quite different and something that my listeners, at least, and I'm sure yours, can get a lot from.
Well, it's just like, being in the, what do you say, like the expression, the hot of the fire, or like, having your iron in the fire.
Mm,
Um, and I'm privileged, right? Like I consider myself very privileged because I could still, survive all the instability. But living in instability teaches you to think of the only stable thing that is available to you, which is you.
yeah.
You can't divorce you. And that's where I can see the narrative change between indigenous people and people who are, unfortunately, the Western countries became like that. Like being so much in the mind and so much in the planning and the long term, and this is good and this is wrong, and because the system needs this kind of planning. Whereas when you live without a system or with a shortage of system,
Mm,
you need to create on the go and to be like checking your alignment, your groundedness, because this is your priority. If I lose my mind and everything is unstable,
mm,
like how am I going to take care of this?
yeah,
Um,
100%.
and I think this is like I that's where when we discuss, I tell you like I feel like both psyches will gain a lot. There will be a lot of richness if we open up like people who are more in the like Eastern thinking. But I'm not
Mm,
only Eastern, we've been like infected by, a lot of, westernizations here. But this is not the thing. The thing is, how can we be more inclusive to understand that, yes, we need the planning, but we need the beingness and the presence and the sort of a prioritizing life, prioritizing not the well-being that we see on social media, or like, oh, you have to have all the crystals and all the looks and all the retreats and all the going to Bali. Uh, you can be in your own being and find ways to survive. And this is what I think is very, very important for all of us to keep our heads on with Aries.
and I watched you do that, lovely. You know,
I know.
when your town, your city was being
Yeah, I
built.
have to tell your listeners, but that's you. I mean, I give a lot of credit to Alicia because she was like, She literally doulaed me. Like she was my doula in regards to how to I express myself in and because of your openness, there was this kind of validation that, oh, it's not like I know astrology, I do live astrologically, and it's been years and years. And but it was like I didn't know the way the Westerners think.
Yeah.
And thank God for teachers like Kelly Surtees. She was she was a real solace in the teaching community because she didn't only bring the Western mind of thinking. Um, and I think we will, like, there is no coincidence now that we're talking about this. There is no coincidence that the Chinese New Year is happening on this historical change.
Yes. Such a good
Like,
point.
there's
Thank you.
no
Coincidence.
coincidence.
Yeah.
It's an eclipse. I mean, Chinese New Years usually happen on eclipses. I'm not at all like
Aquarius new
they
moons.
don't.
Aquarius new moons. It's always the Aquarius
Aquarius
new
new
moons.
moons, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so
But the fact that
the
this is a
point is,
fire horse
it's
and we're entering a
yeah.
year now that's like all fire and all air with the outer planets, there's a
And
lot
I
of
heard
movement.
Stephanie. Hope I'm not butchering her name. Stephanie Unesco. She's a Qigong teacher. You can find her on Instagram. Anyway, she was talking about this fire horse and the feeling in like the heart and the
Mm,
small
mm,
intestines. And it hits me because she said, "Oh, small intestines are about discernment." And I'm like, "Of course. If you are going to go with all this fire, you have to take care of your heart, but be grounded enough for discernment."
yeah,
And this is where we can use each other,
yeah,
folks. Seriously, we can use each other as accountability partners, as listen, Alicia, I'm going spiraling in my mind. What can I do? Like to ground each other, because otherwise, yeah, everybody can be like doom and gloom. It's been 5 years since COVID. Everybody's thinking, oh, it's the end of the world. It's not, didn't end. You're
yeah.
giving power to other people over you because of their narrative.
And this is where co-regulation, coming together as a community, is amazing. And I will have more
Yeah.
to announce on this next week. And I think what you're saying segues so beautifully into that next eclipse, which let me just share this, which is it's a Virgo
Lunar eclipse.
lunar eclipse. It's a south node eclipse. And what's really interesting is, there's just this weight of all this Pisces energy over here. Venus still in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, and even Mars has now entered in Pisces as well. And it's very tight, very close with that nodal axis there. And I think, what you were saying about we may be able to discern less South Node in Virgo. It's the emptying out of that ability to discern. It's also that emptying out of what's material, what's grounded, what's earth into, okay, I'm listening to my intuitive instincts here. I'm listening to my holistic right brain that is
Yes, that's the
always
discernment.
holding exactly than my linear analytical left brain that thinks it knows everything but doesn't and only sees itself. And I think there's a lot to do with this if we can really start to move into allowing our right brain to be as it should be, as Dr. Ian McGilchrist, the famous British psychiatrist, talks about, is our right brain should be the master that our left brain serves. And we need to flip that. And that is actually
Mm.
where I think, too, this theme here and also the Saturn Neptune conjunction can really bring us into all right, well, how do I stop listening to my amygdala, my limbic system, all that stuff that informs me into fear, which is very left brain driven, into the potentials that my right brain can have, which is to think outside the box, which is to problem solve and get curious. You always know that you're in the right place when you're able to meet a problem with curiosity, not fear.
Yeah, and that's just a coaching exercise that I always like to give. Like, if we use the eclipses, for example, there is always a narrative that is being created 6 months before and 6 months after.
Yeah.
And for the first eclipse, it's just like being curious about this narrative, how it will carry itself until August in
Mm.
this 6 months period. And this specific 3rd of March eclipse gets us, back into September
Yeah,
2025.
it does. It does. There's that Virgo new moon. Um,
Yeah. And it
that
was an
is
eclipse.
also an
It was a
eclipse.
great beginning and a great ending. Not for all of us. Not all of us are touched by the chart. Like our charts are touched by the
Mm,
eclipses. But if you're feeling an intensity, like, yeah, there is an intensity. How can I understand it so make sense for myself in order to move forward and to be more informed in my decisions? But panicking is just putting us into the narrative of, oh, they're coming for us and we're gonna die.
yeah,
Okay, perfect. Like, how do we go from there?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I think that 3rd of March period, it's great what you're saying. It's a time to be quiet, it's a south node eclipse. It's a time to think, to contemplate before action. Because really, from here, we then go into some very interesting astrology where all of the Saturn and Neptune energy starts to get picked up as the other planets move through Aries. So first we will have
yeah,
Venus
first we have Venus. Yeah.
traveling between the 2 on the 7th and the 8th of March.
But we have a
Um,
Mercury Kazemi on that week, which is nice. It's
it
nice
is.
idea
It is.
inspired.
Yeah. And then
I'm
we will
always
have,
looking for like the good
I know,
stuff.
I can hear you. You're like desperately trying to find the positive in it.
I swear, I'm like, okay, where are the pockets of joy? How can
Yeah.
we just lean in, you know, the not the positive. I hate this, like this was so overused, but
Toxic
how can we
positivity.
lean into, yeah, how can we lean into the solution part?
Yeah.
Like, where is it coming from?
And Venus, Venus with Neptune is a very creative energy. And with Saturn there, it's like, how can I actively and tangibly birth creativity in this moment? I actually really like this. I think there's some amazing, and it'll be a soothing or a calm. Venus is cold and wet. She's going to bring some cooling between these two. However,
Yeah, she's not very happy in Aries, though. She's very
she's not that well resourced. No,
feisty.
she is for sure. She is for sure. And I think, oh no, she's still in her. She's not Lucifer phase, is she? She's still in her evening star phase. So yeah, um,
Yeah, I
she's not
think
as she's not as feisty
we're
as she could
leaning
be.
we're leaning a lot on Venus, by the way, this year. We're leaning a lot on Venus because I find, like, again, the narrative, the end of the year will end. We'll talk about this in other
Mm,
chats, but the end of the year is, in this retrograde in Libra. So all what is being created in Aries is gonna inform us
yeah,
about how we want to move forward.
yeah, yeah. That's a
Keep
really
that
good point.
curiosity, like you said. Yeah.
But meanwhile, as we get towards the
Meanwhile.
equinox, when the sun moves into Aries on the 21st of March, there and
Yeah.
here, and this is where the sun is going to come and spotlight. We have that Neptune, Cazimi, and then a couple of days later, we will have on the 26th, we will have the Saturn Cazimi. And this is really bringing the voices of these two planets to the fore. They are being lifted up in the sun. And I will say, you may have heard good things about Cazimis, but when malefics are in hard spaces, they technically behave badly. So this is Saturn probably doubling down in your life right now. This is maybe where you're putting authority
Oh,
over the top of you or
yeah.
struggling against bonds to be yourself. So I'm not going to say, yes, this is amazing, although I think you have a bit of a different take. But yeah, I personally, I think this Saturn Kazim, it's like we talk about it as the favorite, that the king's favorite being risen up. But sometimes the king's favorite is in there causing mayhem. Looking at you, Stephen
Mm.
Miller, in the US right now. So, they're a person that has control that they shouldn't or is acting out in draconian ways. But yeah, keen to hear, have you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, you gave me an like you're right. I think listen, I think we're all like focusing now on the eclipses, but you told me maybe that Lisa Scheim talked about, April being hard. I
Yeah,
think the end of March is just, stewarding this
yeah,
all this Aries that has been like on the table
yeah,
through the eclipses. It's just putting it there and like, let's see what we're gonna do about it.
yeah.
And I think Saturn Kazemi is happening before Mars is in Aries, right? Like
It is,
that's
yeah.
nine.
Mars doesn't, you're right in April. Mars
Okay.
doesn't enter Aries until the ninth,
Okay.
sorry, the 10th of April here in Australia. I think it might be the
Yeah.
ninth for you,
And I honestly
in
think
New
that this
Zealand.
is like graceful.
This is- yeah,
This is more graceful.
for the end of March, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's trine Jupiter right as we have that equinox. So it is quite nice, you know, and it
Yeah.
is in Pisces. But I think 10th of April is where the crunch starts to happen. The heat will start to come
Yeah.
in. There will
Yeah.
be the irritation, the frustration, especially as Mars starts applying to Saturn. And Mars,
We
Saturn,
just need to explain to people like what happened, like where where things go, like a bit, way how do you say it, like
yeah,
yeehaw, you know. I think this is it's April, but the building up, like
mm,
I truly think that March is kind of like I told you, it's like the estuary between like this eclipse season and this historical change and the new epoch being
mm,
installed. Like it's as if like we have a new software installment, but then, well, you need to learn about the software and you still have to adapt and make some updates. And this is where I think for me, Saturn Kazemi is going to be very informative.
mm,
I know it's a malefic and it's in hard and all the Hellenistic astrology studies, like all the references I have, like it's really bad. But in my own, jovial nature, what I'm looking forward to is this kind of highlight. It's the first Saturn Kazemi in
mm,
Aries. In when we had Saturn in Aries, I don't think we had a Saturn Kazemi. I might be wrong, but
no,
I like
we
no,
did
it
not.
was already the sun was already out of Aries.
Yeah,
So it's our first our first finger into the fire.
yeah.
It's hot
Mm,
and it's hard, and you need to be like aware that I should remove it.
yeah,
It's fire.
yeah,
The capacity, like the force, because Aries, this is the thing that we don't really speak of. Can you hear me? I think
I
it's
can.
unstable. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the thing that I think people would need to explore more is what is the strength that you have?
Yeah,
What
the resilience.
quality of
Love that.
strength?
Yeah.
Because with kids and with toddlers, like you mentioned,
Mm,
what they do is that they would hit you, but they don't want to hit you. Like they're using their force,
yeah.
and sometimes it's hard. Like you're like, oh, that
Yeah,
was
you go,
not nice.
ouch, and immediately you get, oh, sorry, and the kisses.
And
Like
they're
it's so
like,
young and innocent, as you say. Yeah,
yes, and they're testing their strength.
yeah,
And I think on that day, on that Saturn Kazemi day, it's here. It's the Wednesday 25th. I don't know for
yeah.
you.
It's the 25th here too. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it kind of is like the finger in the fire. How long do I keep it? Did I burn? Did I burn like
Mm,
only the surface? Was it hot, very hard?
yeah.
Uh, it shows you like Kazemi is put to the surface. Everything that is, working with the sun is just going to be exposed. So there will be exposure. Um, and the building up to it is what interests me because at this in the same day after this Kazimi, we're having a moon in Cancer
It starts that same day.
again.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the build up.
Yeah. And so,
Looking at the moon is just
yeah,
like,
because
oh,
the next day we
it's
will have
gonna.
Moon conjunct Jupiter. It's like, all right, I burnt my hand on the fire, but here's the salve and the lesson in, because I think, I'm just aware of time, lovely. Um, the salve is coming in now when Mars comes in, and that's where we're going to have to be really careful that we don't just, it's not just our fingers in the fire, it's our whole body that we could potentially throw into the fire, you know, in that kind of 11th, 12th, um, through until, that conjunction between Mars and Saturn on the 16th of April. This is where, and we've got Mercury
Mm.
there is too, at that same time. And then we're going to continue as Mercury, kind of conjuncts the two at 8, 9 degrees. So I do think from that 11th until the 21st of April, it may be a period of time where tempers fray. It may be a period of time where you feel like you're pushing back against an authority, or someone is pushing you in the back to hurry and rush. And I'll say to you, remember the adage, go slow to go fast. It's the way. And I think mindfulness, meditation, movement of energy like qigong or tai chi will really help us like move this energy through. Even ecstatic dance is one of the, these kind of get the energy moving, get things happening, get things flowing, let it out. um, Lift weights under this energy, you know. Um, but it's all
Yes,
it's all
this
relative.
is very helpful. It's
Yeah,
like lifting weights and doing martial things, like martial arts, any kind of, physical activity. Doesn't have to be you go to the gym, honestly. Like I know that in the West they love this. Here as well, they love it. Uh, I'm the kind of person like whatever works for you. Sometimes I just lift water bottles here
yeah.
and at the house, and
Or yoga.
the second
Light
day I
yoga
feel
down
like,
dog. Yeah,
yeah, just be useful with your body so this energy doesn't get stuck. The problem of this energy, as long as it's moving, it's fine.
exactly. Yeah. And it's pushing things forward. If you've got a project you've been hanging back on or procrastinating around, or there's something blocking your way, this could be a period of time where you're really able to put the energy into moving forward on this. But don't expect great leaps and bounds. It may be that it's a step at a time, taking your time with all of this, but it's
Mm,
definitely something to throw your weight behind. Now, lovely, thank you so
yeah.
much for all you've
Thank you.
got to
Thank you
share
so
today.
much. Yeah.
Where can we find you? Give me your handles. Give me more about you.
Okay, I have now I have a website finally after 5 years. I have Joelle's astralplayground.com, and it's because of Alicia, because I didn't want to put my name and she told me no, put your name
Okay,
in the
makes
website. So
sense.
I'm like, yeah, this is where you can find me. I am Joelle's Astral Playground on Instagram. I don't have other stuff. This YouTube is just on the personal one, but it's fine. It's just like you can, if you want to talk on this one. But yeah, I mean, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Like
my pleasure.
discussing things with people who speak the language and are grounded is important. Opening these kind of conversations between us and other people will keep us less extremist and more spiritually responsible. Um,
Love that.
yeah.
Spiritually responsible. So, Saturn, Neptune. Thank you so much for
Thank you. I hope we didn't,
following
you know.
along. For everyone who is listening, please, if you've enjoyed this, like and subscribe. And we'll probably be back towards May,
Hopefully.
looking at, because there's some very interesting astrology coming up in the middle of the year, winter here in
Yeah.
Australia, or the southern hemisphere,
Summer for us.
summer in the northern hemisphere. There's a lot to talk about then. So, yeah, good to see
Yeah.
you then. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.